Hey everybody, Pastor Hans here, and I'm so glad you chose to tune in to the Daily Dose today. Hey, this week our theme is Headspace. How many of you would agree with this statement? There's a lot that goes on in your head from day to day. We all have conversations in our head. Some of them are good conversations, and unfortunately, a lot of those conversations, they just beat up on us again and again. You see, those conversations we have are really, really important because the things that go on inside us, the internal things, well, eventually they're going to come out. They're going to manifest themselves on the external. Or to put it another way, the way we think affects the way we live. So we're exploring that headspace, that conversation that goes on in every one of our heads. And today, the conversation I want to talk about is worry. Worry, especially for those of you that maybe tend to be a worrywart. You maybe worry about things more than most. The truth is, all of us worry. Some of us maybe are a little better at hiding it than others. Where does worry come from? Worry comes from any moment in our life when our expectations don't meet reality. When our expectations don't meet reality. When there's dissonance between our expectations and reality, well, we worry. And that worry manifests itself inside us. And often we just push all those emotions, that physical reaction deep down inside us. How about this? Maybe it's in your marriage. Your reality maybe doesn't meet the expectations you had of what marriage would look like. Or maybe at this point in your life, you imagined you would own a home, and yet you don't. Or maybe you imagined you'd own a bigger home on the lake, but unfortunately, you're not, right? Our reality doesn't meet our expectations. Maybe for you, you have expectations about your kids and where you thought they'd be in their academic pursuits or their athletic pursuits. Over the last few years, let's be honest, we've had more than enough to worry about, whether it be COVID, if you're a parent, the worries about school closings, politics has created more than enough worry. If you're traveling these days, maybe you have some worry about, will my flight actually show up? Do I wear a mask? Do I not wear a mask? We worry about political differences between us and the people we love. There's more than enough to worry about. And here's the deal. It creates a feeling inside us that has to come out one way or another. Worry, maybe for you, comes out as anger, or maybe it's sadness, or maybe it's frustration, or maybe you turn to control. You've got to control the situation, or maybe it's anxiety. What do we do about that conversation that goes on in our head between our expectations and reality that creates worry? What do we do with that? Well, I want to talk to you just for a minute about a guy named Paul in the Bible, the Apostle Paul. Paul started more churches than any other biblical character. He was a former persecutor of Christians who had this dramatic event where he became a Christian. He wrote more of what we call the New Testament today than anyone else. And here's what I found about Paul as I've read his letters in the New Testament. There was no one in the New Testament who maybe faced more criticism, who felt more guilt, who had more inner dialogue than Paul. I want to read a portion of what Paul writes in the book of Philippians, because in the book of Philippians, Paul is writing all about where we place our confidence. Where we place our confidence. In the book of Philippians, chapter 4, we hear these words. In verse 4, it says, "Rejoice in the Lord. Rejoice in the Lord always. I will say it again, rejoice. Let your gentleness be evident to all." What Paul was saying is, even in the midst of worry, where there's that dissonance between expectations and reality, we can rejoice. We can rejoice in the Lord. Well, why? Why can we rejoice in the Lord? Well, he goes on to say, the Lord is near. Do not be anxious about anything, but in everything by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your requests to God. And the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. This God of ours tells us through the mouth of Paul that we can have joy even in the midst of our worry. The word joy in the Greek actually is the word hope. It's another word for hope. He's saying that even in the midst of hopeless situations, we can have hope. I think what he's actually suggesting is that hope is a choice for people like you and me. We can choose worry, or we can choose to be hopeful even in the midst of our worries. Why? Well, because we can have confidence in God. You see, you and me, we can have hope whatever we face. That hope is a choice. This isn't just wishful thinking. It's a sort of confidence, a hope in a God who was, who is, and will always be. Paul says, rejoice. Rejoice again and again. Again, I say rejoice. Why? Because God is near to you. Folks, we're all going to face those moments in our lives where our expectations, they don't meet reality. It's going to happen almost every day on some level, and it's going to create worry inside you. So know this, in the midst of whatever worry you face, this God of ours, this God is always near. So you can rejoice. You can have hope. You can have confidence, whatever you face. Folks, thanks for tuning in to the Daily Dose. If you appreciated this, maybe you'll share it with a friend. Invite a friend to watch on cable access 181 if you're here in Alexandria, or if you're on YouTube, just hit that little bell there in the corner, and you'll get notifications every time we put another Daily Dose out. We're so thankful for you. Have a good one.